All right, let's dive into a real head scratcher happening in the housing market right now. It's this phenomenon that's totally changing the game for buyers and sellers, and it's being called the Great Seller Retreat.
I mean, it seems like a pretty simple question on the surface, right? But trust me, the answer is, well, it's complicated. Something really strange is going on in real estate. Just when you think you'd see for sale signs popping up all over, they're vanishing. And today, we're going to figure out why.
So, just how big of a deal is this? Get this. In September alone, there was a staggering 28% jump year over year in sellers literally taking their homes off the market. We're not talking about a small shift here. This is more like a market earthquake.
Yeah, we're calling this the Great Seller Retreat. And it's not just some minor trend. This is a full-blown exodus, and it's completely reshaping the supply of homes out there for buyers.
Okay, so to put that percentage into real numbers, that's almost 85,000 sellers across the US who decided to pull their listings in September. Just September. Imagine that. 85,000 properties just gone from the market. And let's be clear, this isn't your normal seasonal dip. No way. What we're looking at is the highest number of delistings for a single month in 8 years. This is a genuinely historic moment for the housing market. So, of course, that brings us to the million-dollar question. Why? Why are tens of thousands of homeowners suddenly changing their minds? Let's get into it and break down what's being called the seller's dilemma. I mean, what on earth is going on here? What forces could be so powerful that they'd make so many people pump the brakes on one of the biggest financial decisions they'll ever make? Well, as it turns out, it's not just one thing. It really boils down to three core pressures. First up, you've got weak buyer demand, and that's mostly because mortgage rates are the highest they've been in over 2 decades. That in turn leads to problem number 2, stale listings. And the end result of all that, disappointing prices for sellers. Now check this out. This really tells the story of those stale listings. A whopping 70% of homes on the market in September had just been sitting there for 60 days or more. The phones just aren't ringing off the hook like they used to, not by a long shot. And this puts sellers in a really tough spot. I mean, what do? Do you bite the bullet and take an offer that's way below what you were dreaming of? Or do you just pull your house off the market and hope things get better down the road? For thousands and thousands of people, the answer has been to wait. And you can feel the pressure to cut prices. It's immense. Look at this data from Zillow. A typical first price cut might be around 10 grand, but the cumulative cuts are hitting $25,000. That matches the biggest discounts ever recorded. Ouch! That is a painful hit for any seller to take. For some people, it's not even about getting a smaller profit. For roughly 15% of the homes that were pulled off the market in September, they were actually at risk of selling for a loss. That is the highest share we've seen in 5 years. Pretty sobering. Okay, but here's where things get really weird. All of this is building up to something, well, kinda counterintuitive. This whole seller retreat is creating a strange paradox in the market, and it's one that affects pretty much everyone. Listen to this from Redfin's senior economist, Asad Khan. He points out that this whole thing is making the housing supply way tighter than it looks on paper. It's effectively shrinking the pool of homes that are actually up for grabs. And this right here breaks down that paradox perfectly. It's like perception versus reality. On paper, the official supply of homes for sale is up about 15% from last year. So you'd think, great, more choices for buyers, right? But in reality, the supply that's actually available is shrinking as all these homes just disappear from the listings. So here's the crucial takeaway, the real kicker. By pulling their homes off the market, these sellers are, probably unintentionally, propping up prices. This drop in the real supply is preventing the market from being flooded, which is keeping prices from falling as fast as they otherwise might. So, where does all this leave us? What can buyers and all those would-be sellers expect to see over the next few months? Well, the road ahead looks something like this. Right now, we're heading into winter, which is always the slowest season for real estate. Most of those sellers who pulled their listings, they're probably just going to play the waiting game through the holidays. The real question is, will they all come flooding back onto the market when things pick up in the spring? But to really understand why sellers are digging in their heels and refusing to accept lower prices, we've got to zoom out for a second. There's one last number that puts this whole dilemma into perfect context. Get this. Despite all the recent weakness, despite all the painful price cuts we've been talking about, home prices today are still 50% higher than they were just 5 years ago. 50%. That's the high-stakes world these sellers are living in while they weigh their options. And that leaves us with this final, lingering thought. You've got sellers on one side holding on tight to those sky-high price expectations from the last few years. And on the other side, you've got buyers who either can't or won't meet them. It's a classic standoff. So in this market of high prices and few buyers, who's going to blink first?